Are turbulent times controlling you?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, even the word turbulent makes me wobble. Even the word turbulent takes me from my 2 to an 8 going, oh yeah, I know what turbulent means. Just like that. So Moira, let's kick it off. What's a tip that we can start with? Are turbulent times controlling you? Yes,
Well,
no.
yes or no? So
Yeah.
you know how we just did that check-in, our PEMS check-in?
Mm-hmm.
Our turbulent times controlling you. That's a check-in, because I think that the really important part, and this would be my first tip, is, are you aware?
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, that's my lovely phone voice, isn't it?
Yes.
Welcome. Welcome to our deliciously motivated mindset conversation with Debz, that would be me, and Moira, that would be her.
Me. That would be me, not her. This would be
Her.
me.
That would be the other one who has a strong accent. Welcome for coming today. We have a goodie. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Even as I talked about the title, I realized my note-taking device was turned upside down.
That's
like,
still, whoops, look at where we're starting it off.
Yeah, that's always a great start to the day, to our conversation. So if you've listened to us before, thank you for coming back. And if you haven't, thank you for joining. One of the things we always start with is our check-in.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't have a name for it, do we? I think I've talked about this. We don't really have a name.
Well, I like to think of it as the PEMS check-in. Physical, your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual well-being. That's it.
There you go. The PEMS.
Yeah, the PEMS check-in.
I'll say it differently. The PEMS check-in. So this is
nicely
where you
said.
Yeah, this is where you actually check in on your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and you just rate it a 0 to 10. It's pretty simple. You go 10 is a discombobulated state where you're just discombobulated.
Discombobulated.
That's it. There's no
frazzled and
Yep. 5 is when you're not as discombobulated. You just no 5's like where you're wobbling and there's some stuff going on, and you haven't eaten, or you have eaten, or you've eaten too much, or you've eaten something that's given you something, or you haven't exercised, or you haven't appreciated whatever's going on. It's your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And then a 0 is, we've started to say 0 for Zen. A 0 is just a place to be when you're sitting present, not worried about what you've done in the past, not worried about what you're doing in the future, and you're just sitting in a space that feels wholesome.
Yeah. Oh, I like
present.
That. Yep. Yeah. Present and wholesome. Yep. Nice.
And so our aim is clearly to take you to the 0. Our aim today with our conversation is to take now, if you don't go there, that's totally okay. But all you're doing right now is you're actually acknowledging where you're at a number. And from a 10 to a 0, and there are beyond 10s too, by the way. And then halfway time we check again, you're going to check again, and then at the end we're going to check in with you and let you know where we are. So in saying that, Moira and I do ours now, and it's just a number. There is no right or wrong. It's just how you're feeling right now. So Moira, where would you say you are sitting today?
I am at a 1.5.
Ooh. Okay. Oh, she's a 1.5. Well, I'm a 2. just because when I started yawning. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I was actually quite excited about this podcast. And now my body's going, oh, yawn. So I'm a 2, and that's literally it. Then we crack on. So listeners, thanks for coming once again. Grab yourself a note-taking device, a pen, pencil, electronic, whatever it is, because we've got some goody tips for you. And our topic is, are turbulent times controlling you? Ooh, even the word turbulent makes me wobble. Even the word turbulent takes me from my 2 to an 8 going, oh yeah, I know what turbulent means. Just like that. So Moira, let's kick it off. What's a tip that we can start with? Are turbulent times controlling you? Yes, no.
Yes or no. So you know how we just did that check-in, our PEMS check-in? Are turbulent times controlling you? That's a check-in, because I think that the really important part, and this would be my first tip, is, are you aware of the impact of things outside of you? You know how sometimes we can get caught, and I know I've done this kind of stuff before. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry. This needs to be taken care of really fast. I have to get this done. I have to get this done. And when you stop and you say, who said that? It's like, oh, it's a belief that's not actually serving me, or it's something that somebody else said, or it's something that's happening outside of me. So this would be a really important piece to look at. Is there discombobulation and chaos being created in your own bubble that you've inherited, that you've accepted in? And of course, there is no right or wrong here. This is the crucial piece, is all around awareness, right? Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I think even just being aware, and I'm going to say aware with no guilt or shame.
And that's why I said there's no right or wrong here. It's just having that, okay, hey, this is a moment of feeling like this, right?
Yeah. And it is just like that number at the start. It's just like, it's just a number. And then when you actually can acknowledge, you can just go, oh, well, that makes sense. And it's like a label. Let's put it as a label. If you have a medical condition and you're just waiting for a diagnosis, and you're just waiting for this, and you're just waiting for this, and you're just waiting for this, and then suddenly they say, okay, you've got this, and you're like, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness, now we can deal with it. And sometimes it's just that label, so it's that awareness, it's just a word, then you can deal with it. So even that label, that awareness, or just opening your eyes, allows you to look at this turbulent times controlling you, because you're just like, oh, okay, I've now got a diagnosis, or I've now got this, or whatever that
just some clarity. Getting some clarity. Right. Yeah.
And I love that there's no right or wrong in that, because that's exactly it. There's no right or wrong, because you can work with anything.
Of course.
I think when we talk about awareness is, and I'm going to say my next one is acknowledge. So there's awareness and acknowledge, which probably go together, is actually, are turbulent times controlling you? So being aware of it and then actually acknowledging it.
Yeah.
So you can't be aware of it and then run away from it.
Go, we can try, but that's going to create more turbulence probably.
Yeah, definitely. So, I know I've got that. So I'm aware of it, and now I'm going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with it. You don't, well, actually you can agree with it or not agree with it, but like, you just have to acknowledge it and go, okay, I'm aware I've got that, and that's it. Then you can reframe, once you've acknowledged it, then you can reframe. So it's acknowledge and reframe whatever it looks like for you.
Yeah, I like that. So the thing that just came for me with that is, my next tip would be responsibility. We've talked about this before. I love, actually, it's one of my favorite words, responsibility. Responsibility reminds me that I always have the ability to respond. So let's face it, turbulent times happen. There's turbulent times. We do live in turbulent times. However, what are you going to put your attention on? What are you going to fuel by putting your awareness or your attention on? So if something's controlling you that's outside of your highest and best good, or even your own choice, it's time to put your hand on your heart and take a few deep breaths and say, I always have the ability to respond. Similar to what you just said about acknowledging, if you are aware that you're in an environment where there's turbulent times and then you want to run away, well, you do have to acknowledge it's around me, it's here, but I don't need to
run, but
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to control me, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm the boss of me and I take responsibility for how everything filters through and creates my experience, right?
Yeah. And I think that then that, like, what you've just said is also then there's no blame or shame to anyone else.
That's
Even
right.
if they've done something to you, you've taken it on board. So
Yeah.
this is, that's that no poor me, no victim, no.
No, it's that I
this
created this. I'm the boss. I created this. I attracted it. So therefore I can unpack it. I can say, that's it. I don't need to take this on. It's not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The next tip I'm just going to add on to that is also, it's okay. And when I say the words, it's okay because it's a reminder, you've been through stuff before, you're going to get through it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay because there's always a solution at the end of every problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay because there's always support out there for you. There's a whole lot of things. It's going to be okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world as we know it. I think there's a song like that, isn't there?
It's the end. No, it is. It's the end of the world as we know it. Who sang that? It's the end of the world as we know it.
We know it. Yeah. We don't often sing. If you're a newbie, we don't often sing. I'm actually the one who breaks into song more often than anything.
It's very true.
Very true. Unless you take me into a shop and there's a song there, I do break into a singing. Actually loud.
So do I. I don't do it loud, but I will start singing along.
Yeah, that's why Moira and I don't go shopping. Apart from the fact both on the other side of the world together, but yeah. But it's just a reminder that it's okay. Mm-hmm. You've been through stuff before, you survived, which you probably thought was the worst thing in the whole wide world ever at that time. And you will not get a challenge that you cannot handle. Even if you get yourself to burnout point where you think it's burnout, like, you still get through this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's okay. And I love, Moira talked about before, was the hand on the heart. And that's, I'm bringing that one back into here because it's okay. It's like hand on the heart and breathe and feel.
I've got this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of go right off of that one, the next tip that I wrote down here is trust. This actually comes up a lot for us in these conversations, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but trust. And it's similar to what you just said, though, that we are actually never in a situation that we cannot deal with. However, having said that, there are times where you think, oh my gosh, I can't see my way through this. I have no idea what the solution is or what the best choice is or what route I should take or choose. But then that could also be another time to just say, okay, hand over your heart and just say, you know what, I cannot see the best way through this, but I know it's there and I trust my own inner wisdom. I trust my own ability because I know I wouldn't be sitting in this turbulent chaos, discombobulation type situation without there being a way through it. Right?
Yeah.
It's such an important part. I've got this. Even if that's all you hold on to in your mind, I've got this.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's trust. Trust is so important to everyday life. Everyday life when you think, You know, when you think, I know Moira actually has a beautiful one. She talks about when she feels she's running late, she's like, I trust that I'm going to get there at the most perfect time.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's all it is, isn't it? I trust
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Trust I'm going to
And
get
she
there at
does.
the exact right time. Yeah.
Yeah. And but when you start trusting, when you actually say the words, even if you don't feel it, and you say the words, the universe will hear your words in its way. And then next thing you get there and you're like, by crikey, that blooming thing worked.
Yep.
What? Well, I need to
Absolutely.
use more of that. I mean, I have the parking fairy in every park I go to. I have a parking fairy, and he, I don't really know what it is, they, and the parking fairy just provides me with a park as close to the door as possible, and I'm fine. And I get in the car and people go, oh, I hate having parks and I can never get a park close to the door. And I go, oh, I'll call my parking fairy. And they're like, what? And they may debunk my whole parking theory myth or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, no, my parking fairy will come through. And I just believe it, even if they're debunking it. And lo and behold, there's the parking fairy. And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, it just happens. I don't think about it. I just trust. And that's the trust.
It is the trust. Yeah.
And I don't have to think about it. I don't have to put all this energy in. I don't have to do meditate. Like, I don't do anything. I just, parking fairy comes to the party each time.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
but you know what you're...
I get confused why it doesn't to other people. That's my thing. I'm like, don't you have a parking fairy? What's wrong with you? We all have a parking fairy. God, what's wrong with you?
But you see, what I feel like when you're describing that is because too many people have, they may listen to that kind of idea of, oh, I'll just call on the parking fairy. But then you have what I like to think of as the mosquito of doubt.
Oh, just going to say
because the mosquito of doubt is just going to say, really? Is it really that simple? Oh, you're not that powerful. You can't ask the universe to do that. And you've actually, right, as soon as that happens, the parking fairy is not going to work. P.S.
Well, my parking fairy outweighs your bloody mosquito of doubt. I was like, come on, parking fairy, do your thing. But it is that mosquito of doubt, that blooming thing. Well, my next tip, well, actually, maybe mosquito of doubt is watching mosquito of doubt. That could be the next tip right there. Actually, that's probably a tip on its own. Yeah. But my next one I was going to say is get support. So when I talk about support, there's clearly Moira and I. There's absolutely that. But find somebody who you can talk to, who can guide you along. And out of the state of 10 that you're in, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I label myself a performance strategist. I can see a problem and I can find a resolution very quickly. And Moira is the same. And that is because we are not standing in your 10.
Yeah,
we are
or
neutral.
In your turbulence.
Yeah, and
the turbulence that you might be experiencing, we're not in it.
Yeah, we're not there. So we can see a problem. You're talking about a problem. We can see it. And we're like, why don't you just do this?
Yeah.
You know, and it can be as simple as, I always want to go back to bed. I always want to go back to bed when I get up. And it's like, okay, well, make your bed. Why would I make my bed? Because then when you come into your bedroom, you're going to look and go, oh, I don't want to mess the bed up again. They're like, well, that seems logical, but it can't be that easy.
That's too simple. That's just too simple.
No, you've got to overcomplicate it. I've had this problem for 20 years. It's like, okay, well, how about tomorrow you get up and make your bed straight away and that's somebody I did have. And it's like my first thought was, just make your bed. Get out of bed and make your bed. Like it wasn't a strategy that I'd heard. It wasn't something that I'd studied in. I was just like, and they were like, no, you can't. No. And that's literally it. And it worked. They didn't go back to bed. I'm sure there's moments they went, I'm just going to mess my bed up because whatever. But I really encourage you to get that support. You know, I know Moira and I, we're good at what we do. We're exceptional at what we do. And that's why we do these podcasts, because we want to give you tips that can help you in your times of whatever it is. So there's support. There's Moira, who does it with less laughter. And then there's Deborah, who laughs away along the way with you. But we have different coachable styles
Yep.
But we get a result, and we are different, but we're not. You'll hear this on the podcast, but we can see that stuff. So when our turbulent types control you, one of the biggest tips is get support. Now, you may not want to use Moira. That's okay. Find who you resonate with and talk to them. But be aware that if you're talking to family and friends, they have their own stories that they're attached to.
Mm-hmm.
And they will put that spin on that. And if you want to talk to somebody about your relationship or your finances or something, I personally think you better not to talk to your family and friends, because then a week later they're going, oh, how are you going with your relationship? Is he still doing what he's doing? Is she still doing that thing? And how's that money situation? Oh, I see you spent money on a holiday. I thought you were getting yourself, in trouble. So you just got to be aware of other people. And I don't know how to emphasize it enough, but I mean, I do know that Moira and I are good at what we do, and we can see that turbulence, and we don't have to step in there with you. We step in with you, but we're holding your hand along that, and it doesn't faze us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We hold space. But to your point about the telling friends or family about what you're going on, is they really care about you and want you unstuck from it, but there can be an inadvertent agenda too.
That's
it's like, well, I want to get this resolved for you, but maybe it doesn't resonate. Maybe it's like all the different aspects of you aren't being brought to the table. And two, it's like you say, and it is done out of compassion. Like, have you fixed it yet? Have you fixed it yet? Oh, what about this? Have you fixed it yet? Have you fixed it yet? That's not going to work. It's going to end up actually, you know what? It'll cause more turbulence. You will create more of a turbulent thing of, oh my gosh, I wish they'd stop asking me about it. Oh gosh, I wish I hadn't even said it or told you what was going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I know that from my past experience where I've shared things with people and they've gone, oh, how did you get on with that? And you're like, I buried it after talking to you, and I don't ever want to talk about it again. And then every social situation they bring it up, and you're like, I buried it. Did you not hear me? I buried it. I never want to talk about it again. Oh, how'd you get on with that? Oh, and then their partner goes, hey, I heard this happened to you.
Yeah.
I buried it. And clearly it's the weeds are coming out. It's not buried big enough, deep enough. Yeah.
No, that's such an important part. And to know, it's also, getting support. It's important to have your right team, so it would be like, maybe it's this type of practitioner or that type of reading or this kind of modality, and have a team of the people that you resonate with. That's the other part too, because that's that question, and I've often referenced it on our conversations here, is how does this make me feel about me?
Yeah. So
if you're interested in reaching out to myself or to Deb for support, that's the critical piece to check in. How does this make me feel about me? When you're being vulnerable and open and telling the truth about what's going on, and how do you feel? Do you feel heard? Do you feel supported? Do you feel guided? And if you feel nervous or anxious, or like you're not being heard, or that there's got to be a better fit somewhere, then we're not the right person for you. But you only get to that when you reach out.
Look at yourself. Yeah. I think the other thing is I've got I don't like the word coach, but anyway, I'm coaching or facilitating. I'm working with somebody at the moment, and this person has 6 coaches. And I remember when he rang me and said to me, oh, look, I'm just interviewing you about a coaching job. And I was like, okay, I didn't even know I was being interviewed, but okay, that's fine. I was the way you just said, I'm interviewing you about a coaching job. And I was like, oh, what's it like? I think I've missed the whole memo on this. But anyway, I'm his 6th coach. And I remember when I thought that, I was like, God, that's insane. But no, it's not. It's literally not. And I say this to people, but it was only just the way he framed it to me. But, he's got a coach for his nutrition. That's right. Okay. He's got a coach for his exercise. And he wants the best of the best in certain areas of his life. And this is what he's got. And so I actually love that I'm literally just showing up for the one thing he wants. And and he's leaping and bounding through his stuff. And I love it. I do
That's
love
awesome.
it. So don't think, don't think you can only have one, because we all have a different spin on things.
We all have our own flavor, our own uniqueness, and our own capacity to offer it. And that's kind of what I meant about when you're getting support. It's about creating your dream team or your support team.
Yeah,
right?
your tribe. But make sure they're the ones who take you to that 0, not the ones who take you to the 10.
Yeah, well said.
Our PIMS check-in at the start. Just make sure, because I have had to let a few go. Who, in fact, I recently got rid of a coach I had because it just wasn't working out. And there was 3 months of turbulence for me, and I was like, you know what, this is not working. And I'm sure they were thankful as well, but it just wasn't working.
Because
so it's
if
time
it
to
doesn't
move on.
work for you, it's not working for them, no matter what they
No.
think or say, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
So summing all that up, talk to Moira or I.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What's the next tip then? Yeah.
The next one that I had written down was self-care.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
Surprise.
I know, surprise. Self-care, and this is something that I have so often underlined and really emphasized, is it's of primary importance for all of us to put our own self-care at the very top of our priority list. And it's part of it, particularly when you know that you are likely to be challenged or come into the space of turbulence, that there's turbulent times. I mean, maybe it's going to be something that you see on social media or on the news or out wherever it is you're going, that you know that there is a turbulent issue or situation. That's when it puts it even more of a priority, that you must fill your cup first. You nurture yourself. You know how we do the check-in, the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual check-in? That is how you start your day. And you need to look after each one of those 4 pillars to the right level for you. Now, I can give you ideas all day long about self-care practices, but you need to find the one that works best for you. So whether that's, going outside for a walk or doing some mantras or singing or dancing or doing some yoga or mindfulness or meditating, but it's to find the recipe for you and commit to doing it each and every day in order to create, this actually creates a calmness and a resilience within you, because you're actually showing that you are worthy of your own time, commitment, and dedication, but you're also looking after your own energy, and you can then sail through turbulent times. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think when you were talking about that, I thought, when it doesn't feel right, change it.
That's right.
Don't feel this is made in concrete. Don't feel walking in your garden is going to fill your soul every day. So if you go into the garden or you go for a walk and it doesn't feel right, then change it. Be okay with so I think that's, are turbulent times controlling you? Maybe that's another tip on its own, is be flexible.
That's a really good one. Be flexible by staying present to see, is this filling me up? Is this soothing me or calming me? And
I talk about a glitter bomb. Anything that you don't sprinkle with glitter or feels glitter around you, delegate it. Palm it off to somebody. But I mean, 2020, the year of pivot. Be flexible. be gentle on yourself. So just be able to move when things change.
Yeah.
And, because realistically, our frazzleness comes from our expectations. Our frazzleness comes from people saying things. Here's your time frame, it's going to get done. Okay, great. If you do that time frame, I can get this time frame, I can get this, and I'm talking to my in-laws at the moment, and they're selling their house, and apparently, I mean, we must have been amazed when we got into our house, is apparently everybody leaves it till 5 o'clock.
Oh,
so the money goes over in New Zealand, the money goes over from one person to the other at 5 o'clock, and then they can pay the next house. So if there's that delay, if someone pays at 5 o'clock, the bank's shut at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if they pay at 5 to 5, that's great. Then the next lawyer has to move it very quickly before 5 o'clock. If it doesn't get moved at 5 o'clock, then they have to wait till the following Monday. Day. But nobody can move because the one person's got the house, so they can have the house, and you've got to move out, and you haven't got the money to pay for it. And I was just like, what? Who does that? Like, in my head, I was like, who does that? And I remember I had this conversation with my partner's father, and I was like, that's just loot. Like, that would throw anybody out. Mm-hmm. And so for us, when we bought our house, we said we instructed our lawyer to pass it in at 10 a.m. I don't know how it happens in your world, like your world on your side of your country.
In my world.
In your world. But we said by 10 a.m. we want the money gone so that we can start moving. And the real estate agent just said, look, if it's not in by 12, in case there's any delays, we'll give you the key and you can start moving. And we're like, oh, thank goodness. Because it was this sort of stuff, our turbulent times controlling you. This would have thrown he was telling me, and I'm like, your stress levels, can you rely on someone doing something? And what if that lawyer decides to have a beer on a Friday at 4:50 instead of knowing he's forgetting that? I'm like, that would just drive anyone insane. I said, you need to talk to someone. I was like, you need to talk to someone. You need to make sure everybody's got all this.
You need to get some support.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and you need to do it now because you're causing me turbulent times. Like, this is in my head. And I think that's the thing is our expectations that we have that things will flow smoothly is not necessary.
No, it's not always going to go that way. Yes.
Yeah. So summing all that up, just be flexible with what it is. Be flexible with whatever you have to deal with. And remember, you're human with human emotions and feelings, and so is other people who are on that journey with you.
Right. That's a really good point about staying flexible, is that you know that saying of if I had my druthers, this is how it would go, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you did, and that's great, but you then, by staying flexible, it's like this would be my ideal scene of it going this way, but I'm going to make sure that I do everything in my power to meet my side of responsibility or of the things that need to be done, right?
Yeah, so you don't have to be very concrete, very hard, and this is how it's going. Like, yes, this is what you want. Okay, this is what you want, not others. But also, just be that little bit flexible that things can happen, because we can be so harsh on others and ourselves, mainly ourselves, and then when things don't happen, we lose our shite at other people.
Cause more turbulent times.
I don't know how real estate agents do that. Like, he said, this is how it goes. I was like, what? No, it doesn't. Does it? Does it? And and I got talking to a couple of people, they're like, that's how and it all just works out. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of trust going on there. There's a lot of trust going on there, because at the moment I don't even have trust. I'm not my monkey, not my circus, but I guess that's the other thing, is be aware of other people's energy. Maybe that's another tip is, I felt his conversation was causing me turbulent times.
So that's an interesting point, because I agree with you that it's very important to be aware of other people's energy, but also, and to your point, not my circus, not my monkey. It's like, can you hold space for somebody being discombobulated or being freaked out or being asking questions?
Well, I just went into Facebook jail because I didn't remember the not my monkey, not my circus. So I went into 7 days of not being able to do anything apart from scrolling. Do you know how uninspiring scrolling is when you can't comment or like or love anything? Drained me for 7 days.
Poor
And that's because I
Deb.
didn't do the not my monkey, not my circus, which I teach people.
And then had to sit in turbulent times all by yourself.
I know. And do you think, now that I came out last night, do you think that I would have had a post all ready to post and say, hey, I'm back? No, I haven't even done that. Last I was like, yay, I'm out. I'm like, oh, I didn't even have a post prepared for this. That's right. Yeah.
Well, so see, don't want to be given control away to turbulent times and say,
Yeah,
ta-da,
definitely.
ta-da.
But holding energy when someone's talking is an amazing thing. Is just being able to hold energy and not just listen and take that on. And if they want advice, you can, and because that's something that I've done in my own relationshiping. If you see somebody in chaos or discombobulated, I like to just say, I'm here. I'm here, and you can talk if you want to, or let me know if I can be of any help. But really just hold that. And because I can't come in and say, oh, I'll fix that for you, or I'll give you the solution, or because that's actually very disrespectful too. So it's don't take away people's dignity.
Or try and be the fixer. Right?
Unless you're paying me and I can help you be the fixer. But I don't just give you the solution. I pull it out of you, even though I've already got the solution sitting in my head.
But don't you agree with that whole piece around turbulent times is that the truth is that each one of us does have the answer within us. And how I see my responsibility when working with clients and students is to hold space and kind of say, how about that? And really allow that awareness to, to bubble up to the surface and go, oh my gosh, knew that all along. Because you do.
It's like, surprise. Well, that's it. That's the old saying, is when you're coaching a coach, you say, if you were to coach yourself, what would you say?
Yeah.
This, and then they can literally say it, and they say it so quickly, and so you have to say this, and then they're like, oh wow, okay. How much did I pay for you, Deborah, for that? Okay. But sometimes that's all it takes, is just to actually reflect about and go, what? That's if you're a coach, clearly. If you're not, then it could be a different story.
That one reminds me, though, too, because this is a conversation that I will often have. You know how you said earlier in today's conversation that we are so hard on ourselves that we can, we can ingest some of the turbulence and then create all this crazy making conversations in our head, and we can start saying, well, I suck at this and I failed at that and that went screwed up and it's all because I did it wrong.
No wonder. Yeah.
So whenever I've had conversations with people doing that kind of thing, I'll ask them, what would you say if a really dear friend or somebody you deeply, deeply cared about came to you and said all of these things? What would you say to them? And hands down, every single time, it's like, I tell them, you've got this. Let go of the pain, and you did
all the tips we've just given here.
Exactly.
Trust.
You did the best you could. Trust. It's okay. Don't listen to that mosquito of doubt.
That's it. Yeah, don't listen to any of that. Be flexible. Throw in some self-care.
Yeah.
Here's a podcast you could listen to.
Exactly. And so that's the whole thing, is to once that's out of your mouth, then it's like, okay, now you got to start talking to yourself like that. So this is being aware of other people's energy, but also aware of that nattering narrator that you got into taking up real estate in your head.
Well, that alone is self-love and gratitude, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Self-love and gratitude. That's perfect. Perfect. Yes. Well, this has been a really good conversation. So we're going to, if you didn't have your pen or pencil or note-taking device out to hand, maybe it's time to grab that, because we're going to run through all of these tips again. But yeah, so are turbulent times controlling you? If they are, that's so be it. If they're not, so be it. But these are
so be it. Yeah,
so be it. Yeah, this is where we're going. So want to kick us off with tip number 1, my dear?
Perfect. Tip number 1 is awareness.
Yes.
And actually, I wrote down, is there discombobulation? Is there discombobulation in your bubble? Is it yours or theirs? So there's no right or wrong in this, but awareness, just be aware of, oh, this is what it is. And we talk about our PEMs, you know, we talked about our PEMs at the start. This is exactly it. It's just being aware and going, oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
Yep. This is where
awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the start of our A's.
Yes, because the next A was acknowledge. So once you're aware, and actually, you know, we didn't talk about this, but acceptance is in here as well. Because once you're aware, you say, okay, it's in me, this is in me, and acknowledge this is what's going on. And that's when you said about if you're aware, you can be aware of some discombobulation and try and run away from it. But it's going to come and bonk you on the head anyway. So acknowledge that, just acknowledge and see, is there a reframe that you can do here, right?
Excuse me, I've got the hiccups, and
She's got the hiccups.
I'm going to do my best, but if and I'm not a quiet hiccuper, so just excuse me, just like that,
just like that.
I'm not a quiet hiccuper, so we'll do my best. I might have to mute as I hit something, hit the mute.
Hit the mute.
Okay, so let's give this one a go, and if it's too much, then Moira's just.
Then I'm going to just do them.
Tips. Yeah, I'm just going to give you the tips. So the next tip is responsibility.
Yeah. Taking responsibility for the fact that she has the hiccups.
That's it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to hand it to you, Moira, because they're coming frequently more often. So Moira is going to give you
these tips while she sits in hiccups. So yes, responsibility. I love this word. It's the ability to respond. So it's always important to come back to that. You have 100% of the time, you have the ability to respond. And there's no blame or shame or guilt in any of this. So that was our next tip. After that, we had, it's okay. And Deb said this too, and this is something that I think is a really important reminder, is that there is always a solution. So regardless of what chaos or discombobulation or turbulent times you're witnessing or you're experiencing, it's always okay, because the other end of the spectrum is there. For whatever turbulence is there, the calmness and peace and ease is also there. And there always is a solution, because no problem can exist without the existence of the solution already. Such an important part to remind ourselves about that just because you cannot see the solution does not mean it doesn't exist. And sometimes that can actually calm things down enough to release any sense of turbulent pieces around you. Tip number 5, I think we're on tip number 5 now, is trust. Trust is such an important one that keeps coming up in so many of these different episodes that we talk about. But trust kind of follows on from that it's okay tip. But trust is really encouraging all of us to realize that there is never a situation or scenario that we are in that we cannot come through or we cannot deal with, because it's not the way this universe works. However, like I was saying about the acknowledging that the solution is there doesn't mean you always see it right there. Sometimes you have to distract yourself or go off into something else, or just release and stop overthinking it and getting really stuck in your head. Which, talking about getting stuck in your head, is the next tip that I talked about, was the mosquito of doubt. And so sometimes when we really embrace this idea of trust, I reference this as the mosquito of doubt, because it's kind of like this high-pitched, irritating voice or vibe that keeps coming up and saying, oh, but maybe it's this, and maybe it's not, and maybe it's not this, and maybe you don't know what you're doing, that kind of thing. So just be aware of it. Sometimes it's good to just be aware of it and say thank you, but I'm going to reframe or change the story or change the scenario, things of that nature. Tip number 7 is to get support. So with a lot of these tips that we share in our podcast, it's about helping you become more aware, more inspired, more in touch with the core of you. But there are also times where it's not that you're not doing the work, it's that you need somebody to hold space for you, or to kind of look over your shoulder and say, oh, how about this? Or maybe there's a reframe, or maybe there's a piece of wisdom that you don't have. So it's about reaching out. You can reach out to me or Deb. And if you don't, that's okay too, but know your tribe. We talked a wee bit about this, about knowing the different caliber of coaches and mentors and healing practitioners and things of that nature, so that you can have your ideal team, your ideal support network. Tip number 8, self-care. One of my favorite topics too, is to always remember to fill your cup first. First and foremost, you got to look after you, priority number 1, and it's a daily thing. So having a practice for looking after you, so that you can actually really look after your energy. It's such a powerful one around dealing with turbulent times, because when you really look after you, create that energy bubble, and you can even put glitter in that energy bubble if you were my friend here, Deb.
I'm all for glitter.
Deb's back again.
I am back, and I thank you for that, Moira.
That's
I have to giggle because I was looking at the tips and I was going, yes. And then the next one that comes up is be flexible.
Be flexible. Yep.
And I'm like, and then Deborah's back. Be flexible. Acknowledging that you have human emotions, you have them, and so do they. So be flexible with what happens. And there's always a solution. I have to giggle at that. It's always a solution. Moira, I've got the hiccups. You're taking over.
Yep.
Literally. Boom. And every time I came to the next tip, I'm like, I think I'm ready. And then, nope, another little one game. So that was just a prime example of being flexible.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a solution to whatever we have.
There is. And so not to get into creating any turbulent stuff around it, right? It's like, no, this is how it went.
No time. There was no time on that. It was like, okay, I'm working on my hiccups right now.
Yes.
Right now. Be flexible. Yeah.
Be flexible.
Thank you for that. And what's the next tip, Moira?
The last one that I have here was to be aware of other people's energy. That because you're not going to take on other people's energy, and it's about really having the capacity to hold space, and not, if somebody else is having stress or discombobulation, it's like, okay, I can be here and I can hold space for you, and I can also say, what do you need from me? Or, how can I help?
Yeah.
And do you need to just listen? Because this is actually all a part of self-love, putting you at the top of that, self-love and gratitude for, you got this, it's all okay. Turbulent times do not need to control you if you choose not to. If you choose to put yourself at the top of your list and follow these tips.
Yeah.
Follow the tips. So that's the tips that I had. Did you have anything else?
No, that's it. And no, that was it. And
all right.
The when it comes to our numbering, which I know you're going to talk about, it was the self-love and gratitude that moved my number just straight away then.
Perfect.
Because I was like, oh no, is there another hiccup? I just trust it's not going to happen. And I was reading all my tips going, yes, in my head. And then when you said self-love and gratitude, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. And I just got to that point of it's okay.
Beautiful.
On our thing.
Beautiful.
So,
I love that. I love that. So listeners, we trust that you got some insights and some inspiration to find your zen, to look after you, to calm any kind of turbulent stuff that might be influencing you. We'd love to hear from you. What was your favorite tip? And is there anything that we could have added in here? We'd love to keep this conversation going with you. So hop over onto our Facebook group and let's hear from you. We'd love to hear from you on how this is landing for you. Did you get the calming that you needed? And also,
did you get the self-love and gratitude?
Yes. And also reach out. Like if you are needing some support, reach out to both of us on Facebook, or you can reach out to us individually also. So before we wrap this up, we did our PEMS check-in at the beginning, and I was at 1.5 and Deb was at a 2. And so listeners, we trust that you wrote down what your number was and had a wee check-in with yourself at the midway point. And now we're going to just kind of assess, where are we? So where are you, Deb?
I'm a 0, and it literally was the self-love and gratitude. Because
Beautiful.
I actually felt like I went from a 2 to a 1.
Mhm.
And then the way you just said self-love and gratitude, I went, oh, that's a 0. It just came in. So yeah, totally a 0.
Excellent. I love it. Yes. And I'm a 0 too. We navigated our way through this beautiful podcast conversation. It's been a wonderful conversation. So listeners, your next step, if you enjoyed this, we encourage you to share it, share the conversation, share your insights, but also share this conversation with other people and start having the ripple effect of this wisdom and tips that we love to share. So that's us signing off our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast conversation. We'll be back again with you next week. Bye. Bye, dear listeners. Bye, Deb.
Bye.